Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Gemology for Schmucks. Once again, my name is Peter Nelson, and I'm here to guide you in everything you need to know about gemstones. Today we're going to be talking about tourmaline, the rainbow stone. It comes in almost every color you can think of under the sun. Some tourmalines have their own special names, even. Those electric hues, this is oftentimes called paraiba, but it's still the same mineral, tourmaline. Tourmaline can come from many different places in the world, but some of the most famous tourmalines that you will ever hear about are from Afghanistan. Afghanistan also has a huge variety of colors, but one thing that is very typical about Afghan tourmaline is that it is typically quite electric in color. We also have some very pastel and minty hues of tourmaline from Afghanistan, and very, very clean. On my channel before, you will have seen a lot of different colors of tourmaline, but today we're going to be talking more about these pastel hues. This material is very interesting because a lot of it is so clean that you're not going to find any kind of inclusions whatsoever. Okay, I lied. If you pull out a microscope, you will find something. But just from the face-up view, you're not going to find a whole lot of inclusions. Tourmaline is particularly interesting because of the way it grows. When you see the crystals, oftentimes there are these triangular pillars. So when you look at it from above, it looks more like a rounded triangle. But they can grow very long, and they can come in some huge sizes. But the reason it's interesting to me is that as it grows, depending on what kind of minerals and other nutrients are available in its growing environment, it can grow in different colors. So you can find something called watermelon tourmaline that maybe at the inside is going to be pink and on the outside it will be green or blue. And not just as the crystal grows out this way, but also as it grows up, it may go through different types of color zones. So you may have green down here at the bottom, a nice even green, and then as it gets up towards the top, it changes to pink or blue or some other color. Like I said, there's so many different colors in tourmaline, you never know what you're gonna get. Until after you've mined it, of course. Tourmaline also has a very interesting property called dichroism or pleochroism. Pleochroism meaning many colors. And because of the characteristics of the stone, as you rotate tourmaline, you can get two very distinct colors in two different directions as the stone is turned 90 degrees. And that's very important when checking tourmaline or buying tourmaline rough, because the C-axis, which is going to be that tall end of the crystal, when you look down the tall end of the crystal, you may see that there's a very dark color. And what happens is, if the stone is cut in a certain way, then as those angles on the side of the stone are brought in, depending on the orientation of the stone, then that color gets brought in more. And if that color is not a pleasing color, then you might have something beautiful like pink over here, and then over at the sides it's black, or brown, maybe even mauve. Depends on the crystal itself. So this pleochroism or dichroism, meaning two colors, can be very interesting, but at the same time it can be a disadvantage depending on what those two colors are. Getting a very evenly colored tourmaline can be difficult. But lucky for us, a lot of these Afghan tourmalines that I'm talking about today have two very complementary colors. So some of these minty green colors, when you rotate them, or if you look at the sides of the stone, depending on how they were cut, you might see that there's a little bit more of an olive green or a Kelly green. Some of these pink stones, this kind of baby pastel pink, at the sides you'll see it has more of a tangerine pink. So it doesn't clash like something like brown. These are very light and refreshing colors. In some of the African tourmaline that you'll see, the colors are very bold, very intense, but that C-axis color, that color that grows in the direction of the crystal growth, can be kind of an aggressive halt. You see it and you go, whoa! Again, it depends on the crystal. So when you're looking at tourmaline, especially in tourmaline crystals, considering to buy and get it cut, definitely make sure that you rotate the stone in every direction you possibly can. And be honest with yourself. Do you like all of the colors that you see in that stone? Now, all of this is faceted material. If you check out this episode over here, you can find some cabochons in tourmaline that are very interesting and very similar material. But the real advantage of faceted material over cabochons is that it creates these mirror-like planes and it reflects the light very well. It's very bright, very lustrous. And this material, even though some of the pieces are not very intensely colored, they are very, very high luster. They have a lot of really sharp reflections coming out of the stone, so it seems very young, very alive. Excellent for jewelry. And that's both an advantage and a disadvantage depending on the individual stone. It's an advantage because, of course, it's beautiful when the stone is clean. But just like a mirror, or if you take two mirrors and you bend them towards each other, it has that hall of mirrors effect, and that image gets repeated all the way down. Inception. So when you're checking tourmaline, if you see from the face up that the stone looks heavily included, one thing I suggest doing is taking that stone, flipping it over on a light colored background, something like a white piece of paper maybe, and then rotating it. When you flip it over, it doesn't have that same mirror-like reflection because the angles are different from this viewing point. So there are some stones that you'll see there are inclusions close to the culet or on the sides of the stone, and that will reflect the image of the inclusion all over the stone, making it look really included. But if you can see that those inclusions are close to the culet or close to the sides of the stone, that means that this stone is a good candidate for recutting. You can cut out those inclusions, and then you have a very glassy stone. If you see that those inclusions are deeper into the stone, then maybe that's a stone you want to pass on, unless you just love the color. I myself like a lot of inclusions. It doesn't matter to me. Some inclusions can actually add a softness to the view of the stone. The famous sapphires of Kashmir have this exact same thing. They have a lot of very small inclusions, and that makes the stone look what they call velvety. So it's a nice, lively blue, but it's not like a spastic child. Instead, it's sultry, minx-like. So inclusions definitely aren't always bad, and they help you to know which stone is your stone, because the inclusion seen of each stone is unique to that stone. If you know what inclusions you have and where they are located, you're never going to worry about somebody switching out your stone. Never! So once again, to inspect your stone, just flip it over table side down and rotate it around. See where you can see those inclusions. Maybe take a torch on top of it and then rotate the stone. Some inclusions will light up from certain angles, and that will help draw your eye to them. If the inclusions are closer to the surface of the stone, that may be a good candidate for recutting. And if you recut it and the appearance of the stone improves, then the value of your stone also improves. Speaking of value, if you would like to see what we have in stock at Nazo Ana, then please head over to our channel over here, and I will show you some of the stock we have in hand. Any of the stones that you see and that you're interested in, just shoot me an email at nazoanagems@gmail.com, and we can talk more about how you can own this stone. And that's all I've got for today's episode on tourmaline. Once again, my name is Peter Nelson. Thank you for joining me. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, tell all of your friends about it. And if you got any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below. And I look forward to see you next time. Bye-bye.